All right, welcome back. We are doing a back day at Gritness Gym. Don't know if you can see that, just above me. So what we're going to do today is going to walk you through a back day with a 50-year-old IFBB pro, and I've had a load of questions come through. So I'm going to pick about 5 or 6 of those that have come through and answer those between sets. So you're going to see back training, you're going to see some shoulders as well today. Something maybe you haven't seen before on shoulders, a way of really enhancing that superset. I think shoulders respond better to higher reps with more of a superset fashion. And we'll get some questions in between. So hopefully you'll get 30 years of my experience come over in this training with some coaching points and some questions on. So let's follow on. And if you aren't following me on Instagram, make sure you do at Neale Cranwell, and subscribe to this for more great content for men over 40 that's still trying to thrive in the late years. All right, so first exercise on back day. Now, if you followed my last back workout I put on YouTube, you'll see I like to start with a pullover. So a dumbbell or a cable pullover to open up your back. I think that's really important because a lot of people don't feel their back trained. And so if we do a pullover, we can stretch and engage and really highlight that lat muscle, feel it right under the arm, so that when we go on to the heavier stuff, you're already awake and feeling the area you're supposed to train. Because with back, you can't necessarily see it activate because it's behind you generally. So we're going to do that first. And I like to do this as a superset. So I'm going to do this with a continuation after the lat pull, straight arm pull down, so onto a single arm cable. Now, I'm not one of these D-handle cable guys, but once a week, because I train back twice a week, and I think if you're trying to bring a body part up, train it twice a week. Frequency matters. Not doing more reps or sets in the same workout, but doing more total volume split between 2 workouts so you can put more effort into each of those rather than the workouts just absolutely flog you, especially if you're a man over 40 trying to bring a body part up by doing more sets, more reps, longer workouts, more volume in one session will just lead to you stressing the body, raising cortisone, losing muscle mass, and getting smaller, not bigger. So we need to hit it hard, get in, get out, repeat. If you need to bring a body part, I think, try and repeat that 3 or 4 days later. So we're going to do the straight arm pullover, and then we're going to move on to a single arm cable, which again is done to isolate the lat. And so these 2 kind of supersets, these 2 exercises are the fluffers, they're the warm-ups. You know, these are just to get that back activated. They don't create a lot of muscle, don't think that they do, but they do switch your brain on to feel where that muscle connects. So that when you go on to the heavier stuff, which we will be doing, following these 2, we'll get more isolation in more of a compound back movement. Now at this gym, we're fortunate enough to have a chest supported single cable where we can work one side at a time, which really does help keep your form. But otherwise, if you haven't got this at home, you can use a normal seated cable, but you'd have to brace yourself against your knee. But check this out, this is how they're done, and this is how I'd like to see them done at home. So drop me a comment if you've tried these yourself in the comment section below. Okay, so first question that's come in is on back training, should you have your thumbs in or thumbs out? And using straps or using your natural grip? So I would always say use your thumbs out, so leave your thumbs out of the handle, and you should only really put your thumbs in on special occasions. That's what she said anyway. So what I'd say is, if you want to get more back development seriously, you need to have your thumbs out and you're not grabbing the bar or the handle with your thumb and have a thumbless grip. Otherwise you'll take a lot of that weight on your forearms, through your arms, through your biceps, and you want to kind of remove all of this tension that comes through the arm and direct it onto the back. The biggest way of doing that, and the big tip here, is use your hands as hooks, and in your head you drive the back, the movement back with your elbow. So you're not pulling with your hands, although actually you are, obviously, but you're trying to think in your head, drive the elbows back, and now contract your back a hell of a lot more. If you think about just yanking that bar or handle with your hands, your forearms will take over, your arms will tire out, you'll get a massive forearm pump. Do let me know if that's you below in the comments. And the way around that is use a thumbless grip. But over the course of a workout, you can still get a forearm pump, which will start to remove your back contraction, and you'll start to overload your forearms and remove it off your back. And if your back's not growing, your arms are taking over. So how do you prevent this in the long term, especially if you're lifting heavier loads where you want to be safe and secure? I would always go for bare grips. These are grips that I'll try and put on the screen here for you. And these are on Amazon. They're about 15 quid. They're absolutely game-changingly awesome. They'll take all of the grip out of the movement, and you'll be able to focus much more on the back. And guess what? You'll be stronger and isolate your back more. You'll feel it more. You've not tried these and you're using no grip because you think you're going to get big forearms. You won't. You'll just get small back. You want a big forearms, train big forearms independently, specifically. But training without straps, in my opinion, once you start to handle any weight, will be your downfall if you're trying to create a massive wide back. So if you want really wide lats, you need to use straps, and my preference is bear grip. So give them a try if you've not already. Right, so now that superset's over, we can move on to something more compound. Now, I'm really a huge fan of something I used to do when I was coached by, RIP, John Meadows, who's one of probably the most, informative, best coaches I think there was ever online. If you don't know who the Mountain Dog is or John Meadows, please have a look. Google search him. And some of his videos are still hugely popular and relevant, and I'd go and watch them. He can teach you a lot, especially if you're in your 40s and up, because he was as well, made continued great gains. And I was fortunate enough to work with him for a year, meet his family, and unfortunately he did pass away. So now I'm actually working with his head coach from back in the day. His name's Chris Edmonds, and if you've not seen any of his videos, go and check them out. Now we're going to do the famous Meadows row. Now if you don't know what that is, where have you been? If you've not tried these, you need to get involved. Now you can use a landmine and a bar with this, or you can use a T-bar depending on how your T-bar is set up. This one allows me to do it. I think a T-bar is great because you haven't got to mess around setting the system up. Now I'm old school and I just want to get in and get on it. I don't want to set all this fangled dangling business up and lose the idea of what I was going in to train for. I think that's what we see that gets lost in the gyms today. You see all these young kids that are influenced by influencers, not by real bodybuilders that get in and do the work and have done the work for many years, and they're setting up straps and wraps and single DN cables and all this paraphernalia, and they look like a string bean because they're putting so much effort into setting up and the perfect execution. They're forgetting to just work fucking hard and just work hard, people, but with control, and don't overdo the volume. But you need to go in there and give your muscle a reason to grow, not just fart about with these easy machines and cables. Do some free weights. Even if you're getting on like I am, still include a couple of free weight movements into your workout, and use machines once the free weights have done their job and you're starting to fatigue. Machines will help control the movement for you and help you keep that pressure on the muscles. Now, we're going to look at this Meadows row on a T-bar. If you've not tried this at home, this is how you do it. Give it a whirl. Now, if you saw that set, my goal weight there was to really fail somewhere around 12 reps. Now, I realised I'd set the weight wrong because I was bloody strong today, because when I got to 12 reps, I could still keep going. But what I want everyone at home to not do is stop at 12. There's no magic about 12. If I hear this all the time in coaching, is my clients hit their reps. But if you can take 1 or 2 or 5 more, take the reps, get to failure in your work sets. And then realise that that weight was too light and adjust it for the next set or the following week. But you need to give your muscle a reason to change. It's those extra reps you don't do are the ones that make all the difference. Trust me. The ones you've done before, 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12, week after week, you're staying the same. Don't believe me, try it. Come back to me in 3 months, let me know. All right, so we've done that with the Meadows row, so they're fantastic. Do try them at home. These are the grips, by the way, that I mentioned. These are bear grips. All you do is literally wrap this around the bar, grab it with that thumbless grip. Watch your back training develop and improve. Now, we're going to go back to the second question that's come through. It's one of these stupid ass fuck, marry, and date cheat foods. So which would you fuck, marry, and date? Now, I'd probably say if I was to choose one with a guilty pleasure that we'd regret in the morning, which would be the fuck, I'd probably go for pizza. Who doesn't love pizza? Love pizza, but all that wheat, all that dairy, that cheese, that's well inflammatory, and I'll probably have a bad stomach for 2 or 3 days. Not like when I was a teenager. That's the difference between being over 40 or 50 like me and having that cast iron stomach when you're in your 20s. I remember going to Pizza Hut once a week when I was at college and having all you could eat pizza for lunch and getting back at school and not falling asleep. So which is exactly what I do now. So which would I marry as a cheat meal? I'd probably go for something like steak and chips. So you can't beat a really good steak with some really thick cut chips. I think that's still got some quality nutrition in. You still can see the protein and carbs. There's no bread. There's no really inflammation that comes from that. But you get higher calories. That's something I could marry and eat for the rest of my life for sure. And then which would I date? I suppose if I was to date something, I'd probably go with something like ice cream. Because, you know, it's something that you don't want to do and go out with all the time. You'd want to have a date now and then. But if you date it too often, you'd probably have some sort of consequences over time for all that dairy. So they're my three choices there. What would yours be? Let me know in the comments below. All right, so next exercise after the Meadows rows, we're going to do a Dante row. So I don't know if you've seen these are old school as well. Unfortunately, I ain't young, so I like to bring in and keep in some of the old movements because they keep me grounded to bodybuilding and not get caught up with all the influencer shite. So what a Dante row is where you use the seated cable row, but you bend over or as far forward as you can, and so you're hunched over, like visually is how it will look, and you're driving back with your elbows using a rope, and you need to wrap your hands around the inside of the rope. Now I'd still use the bear grips on this because it'll help with your support. And what I tend to do here is just one fill set and then one rest pause set where we'll work to failure. Now because it is such an isolation movement and you're holding onto a rope, you're gonna fail and lose movement. Because you're bent forward, lying almost flat on the seated pad, you can't use momentum. There's no leaning back that you see every other knobby like gym user doing a seated row. Very wrong in the gym. They always lean back, use too much weight, ego over form, and this is a great exercise, but people do it wrong. So the Dante version is one that will absolutely remove any fear of you leaning back because you're leaning completely forward and you're driving your elbows back into your pockets. Remember, your hands are simply hooks around the cable, or the rope in this case. Drive your hands into your pockets and get a full stretch. And you want to stretch your lat out fully, but then don't extend further where your shoulders relax and your shoulders take out the engagement of your lat and you overstretch your shoulders. So there is a fine line between it. You should feel a thick stretch on your lats. At that point, if you go any further, you'll see that in order to take that movement any further, you'll just bring your shoulders forward and actually take it off your lat stretch. So we want to keep constant tension, drive the elbows. When we fail, you'll see that I'll sit forward, count 20 seconds in my head, then back into the stretch position. And then really what a rest pause should be, if you're aiming for say 10 or 12 reps and you fail there, you have to fail. If you don't fail, the rest pause will not work. So go to failure, rest for 20 seconds, don't change your weight, repeat. That short rest time will allow you to get probably half of them reps again, maybe 4 to 6 reps. Once you fail again, rest 20 seconds, and then you should get half of them reps again, maybe 2 or 3 more extra reps. So your total reps in that movement should be under 20, otherwise you've gone too light initially or you haven't gone to failure on that initial part of the movement. So really, one set is 3 points of failure. Give it a try, let me know if you've not tried these before, and if you want some coaching points, have a look at how it's done. All right, so next question's come in is, would you rather, one of these, be an IFBB Masters Olympia champion or a bedroom champion at 50 years of age? Now, that don't even need answering, does it? So I think like if I got that to the Olympia and won that competition, it would be an amazing achievement, like beyond my dreams. But really, it's just a trophy. And no one outside of the bodybuilding realm even knows what that is. I think if you was a champion in the bedroom and still had that porn star performance in your 50s, I'd probably take that all day long and live a very happy life every day rather than just one moment on stage. But I think realistically what we want to do is be a champion in life so we can perform in the gym, energy in the day, perform at work, and of course, be that guy in bed that every woman wants. So I think make sure your hormones are optimized, your sleep and recovery is maximized, because that's the biggest game changer for men over 40s, recovery and sleep. Don't neglect it because you're working long hours. You don't sleep, your cortisol rise, hormones will go down and you won't have any energy for the day, let alone the night. Have a think about that before you look at being your Mr. Olympia. Maybe have a look at balancing life. So we're going to move on now to my favorite back machine. And this is where I tend to suggest bringing in a machine, is once we've done some free weight movements, once we've warmed up, once we've isolated the lats, now bring in your favorite back machine. But what I do differently here is I would get a real hard contraction for at least 2, maybe 3 seconds in the squeeze. And you're not just holding the weight back on this. You are trying to squeeze your back, like squeeze the muscle. I think the misconception men have when they come to gym is be the strong man in the gym, or lift as much weight as possible and throw form out the window. What I actually have done for 30 years, and my belief is I want to use the lightest weight possible to really fatigue and fail the muscle. And actually failure in the gym is a massive positive. It's not a negative. And I know a lot of men's pride get beaten up if they can't bench press 100 kilos and they fail and they feel like failure. But I'd rather fail with a lighter weight when the muscle is fully engaged and totally taxed, and use more weight where there's joints, connective tissues, other muscles coming in, and definitely more chance of injury. So holding and contracting hard in the concentric position, that full contraction position, it's going to engage that muscle a lot more. There'll be more time under tension. You won't be able to go as heavy, but you will feel it a lot more in the muscle. And that's the biggest takeaway I could give you today. If you want to be training, be fit and healthy for as long as I have, which is 30 years, you need to focus on form and then add progressive overload to perfect form. So let's have a look at what my favorite back machine is. Currently, it's going to be this Panatta machine here. I can show you that. This single row, mid-row Panatta machine is awesome. I'm going to give that a go now. Really connect really well with this. And because it's got a chest pad, there's no moving, there's no swinging. You can really isolate your lat, which as we get further into a back workout and you get tired, is well needed. Have a look at this. If your gym hasn't got this, it may have a hammer strength seated hammer strength row, which is a very good alternative. All right, chaps. So we're moving on to this last set on back, or the main back movements. We've got lower back to finish it off. But this is going to be the second set on my favorite back machine. We save till last. 2 second squeeze at the back, and we're going to do a drop set. So we can work to failure, really try and make the most out of the contraction. When you can't get a great contraction, keep form. Listen, I'm a big believer in you trying to take a partial rep, just to be safe and secure that you did fail. Because a lot of times this fails and the actual physique can still get another rep or 2, especially on leg day, people. So I would always try, when you're about to fail, take that extra rep. I do know that you see a lot of coaches online telling people not to take the extra rep, but my actual argument to that is I don't think many people know where true failure is. They just think it fucking hurts at this point, it's burning, I must stop. I think unless you actually find where failure is, you won't be able to really judge that. So do try and take that extra rep, even if you can only get a half rep, you've actually failed. But don't throw it around at that point, keep really good form, you'll still be safe. Now you'll learn where failure actually comes from. When we fail there, we're going to drop off about 20% of the load and then crack on with as little rest as possible. If you had a training partner here, I'd get them to do immediate swap. I haven't, so I'm going to have to jump off, swap the weights as quick as possible, jump back on. Then try and get them reps to continue. You might only get 3 or 4. And then again, you stop, you drop off about 20% and you aim to go to failure again. Take them half reps, people. Trust me, once you've took half reps, you're not yanking it to get a half rep. You're doing it with control. I'll show you here. You know you've failed in every rep range and every weight that we're dropping on. That will massively stimulate your back. Remember, we've got this overhand hook grip, and the biggest technique I'll give anyone when they're training their back is just take a second in that stretch. Now you'll see here when my back stretches out my lat, it stops here. I can go further, but at this point my lat's now relaxed. It's all on my shoulder. So we want to go to the point of contraction there on my lat. Any further, it's off my lat and it's on my shoulder. But holding that stretch position for a second, and remember on this particular exercise, we're going to get a 2 second squeeze at the back. If you do that and you hold for a second before you re-engage in every back movement, your lats will get massive. Trust me, people. So now we've done that, we'll move on to another question. And this one is, should I increase my TRT from 125 milligrams as a man over 40 per week to gain more muscle? So this is a question I hear quite a lot from a lot of my clients are over 40 and some are on TRT prescribed and they're on a dose to fix a hormonal difference. Now, my take on it is you need to fix your lifestyle first before you see the truth of what any TRT dose can do, because your testosterone's got low because of the lifestyle that you've lived to get there. So if your sleep's not great, you're not optimizing sleep, you're only getting 5 or 6 hours, you've got a high stress job, you've got a high amount of body fat, chest fat, you've got higher estrogen and cortisol, all of these things, and inflammation due to a bad diet and bloating, maybe acid reflux if you've got sore joints, all signs of inflammation will mean that your testosterone gets hampered. Now, even if you take TRT at the prescribed dose, you might see on the paper, on your blood test, that the levels seem to be in the right range, but why don't you feel better? And that's because your lifestyle is still sucking your energy away. So you do need to fix your lifestyle before anything else. And I would always suggest do that first, because then you'll see your hormones improve anyway, naturally. Otherwise, you'll have to inject yourself maybe every day or twice a week for life, which who wants to do that, right? So if you fixed your system first and everything's gone outlined as above, where everything's fixed, your sleep's great, you've got no bloating, anti-inflammatory diet, you're low body fat, you've been training regularly and so on. Now, if you've got that issue, several months of living a really great lifestyle and your blood work's showing your TRT is low, then maybe TRT at that point prescribed by a doctor will have a massive game-changing effect for you. But at that point, I'll see clients that have got to that point and they'll ask me, should I take more? Some of my pals down the gym say taking twice that amount, you'll see more muscle, or take a higher amount even than that, and I'll see more gains from my progress and effort in the gym. And to be honest, what really matters is your blood work. So if you put hormones up or testosterone up, what comes up must come down. And when one hormone goes up, other hormones will follow it, because our body wants to be in equilibrium. So you might find by raising your testosterone out of that perfect spot that's been prescribed for you, you may feel more strength, you may feel more libido for a short period of time, but then your estrogen and possibly prolactin will also come up, because these are the hormones that will want to stay in balance. And at that point, you might see side effects like oily skin, bad skin, sore nipples, lack of libido, and actually taking too much testosterone can impair your SHBG or sex hormone binding globulin, which will affect your sex drive. Even if your testosterone is high and your sex hormone binding globulin may become low because you're out of a good spot for yourself, and everyone's unique. So what I would say, we're trying to optimize self as men over 40. Take the TRT dose that puts you in the upper range of normal, in that optimal range. I wouldn't personally mess around with it unless you wanted to be a competitive bodybuilder that was paying you for a living, and you might want to put your health on the line for stages through the year, because you're going to mess around with higher doses and it's just for the visual cosmetic look of feeling better, looking better in the gym. I think this can be 100% achieved with just great levels of natural testosterone, or supplemented with TRT if you prescribed it and need it. If you want to feel better in life, don't mess with your hormones over that, because you won't feel better. Remember, anything that comes up will come down, and you'll get some side effects by taking yourself above that range. So not all things are great, as there's always a ceiling to everything having a benefit. My advice, guys, is that if you're not on stage competing, don't flex with the peds. I would just be as healthy as possible. Make sure your hormones are in an optimal position and you can still gain muscle right into your 60s. Well, let's just have a quick talk about warm-ups here, because they asked this question so many times. And what I see a lot of men that have been training a long time, perhaps over 40, do this old-fashioned thing, which I've got to admit I used to do as well until a good few years ago now. But I think most men go in the gym and they do 3 sets of 10 or 4 sets of 12 or whatever their sets and reps are. And they might even have the knowledge to only want to work 2 full-on work sets to failure. but they're still doing, 2 sets of 12 as a warm up, and then their 2 work sets, which are aiming to fail within that 12 rep range. But what I think that does over time is just bring down your strength for the actual sets that count. And remember, I said earlier, the only reps that actually count are the 1 or 2 that you've done at the very end of a set that you've not done before. The ones that you haven't done before will make the change. Now, if you're doing 4 sets of 10, 4 sets of 12, by the time you get to your work sets, you've already done 30 odd reps. Even though they haven't been as demanding or as heavy, over the course of a set and the course of an exercise and the course of the whole workout, that will create systemic fatigue. So you won't be as strong, obviously, in the actual sets that matter. So warm-ups is really important that you don't injure yourself. 100%, that takes priority and precedence over anything. But if you've not got an injury and you're pretty warmed up already, I would do on an exercise 1 set of 8 reps with a fill weight, maybe half the weight you're generally going to do for your work set. And then if the jump between that warm-up set and that top set that you're going to do is very vast, like it would perhaps be on like a leg press or maybe a squatting movement, I would do a second warm-up set that's somewhere between the first weight and your final weight, and just do about 4 or 5 reps. So now your total warm-up reps have only been about 12 as opposed to 3 sets of 12 before you get to your work set. Now that over the course of your workout will make it shorter, more precise, more concise to the exercises that are going to do the damage and create the muscle to respond. And you'll be stronger in them sets because you haven't just done, over the course of your workout, 100 odd warm-up reps. You've done maybe a third of that. So you'll have more power and you'll still be warm. But if you need an additional warm-up set, take it. Now, if you're doing a small muscle group, like maybe a bicep curl or some small muscle group, you might find that their warm-up weight and the jump to your work weight doesn't need a second warm-up set in between because the jump isn't very high. If that's the case, and you warm up with 5 kilos and your top set is 10 kilos, you're good. You don't need to do a second warm-up set. I would just do my set of 8 and then crack on. That's food for 4 people, but my advice is do as little warm-up sets as you need to be safe. If you need more because you've got a little perky injury, do them. If you don't need them, save it for the ones that count, but use good form. Don't injure yourself. All right, so we're finishing off a back day with a hyperextension. So now, if you don't know, I did break my back probably about 15, 20 years ago now. I've had a motorbike accident and I was paralyzed from the neck down. So breaking my back has took me a long time to be able to do any kind of lower back work on it.
Champion bodybuilder Neale Cranwell has been left paralysed after a horrific motorcycle.
According to former police officer,
several bones.
in the unexpected universe,
It's unlikely you'll ever run.
There comes a time, the first step, the last rep. You know the routine. The time when you look at yourself in the eye. Just you against you, an eye for an eye. This is grind. Some people turn away. Some people look within, again and again. Strike when the time comes. The limitations come from others. We feel the fear, but embrace it. We look at ourselves in the eye. No hurdles or obstacles can stop us. Remember, you are the author of your story, and it's the characters within it that are remembered. Over the years, I've gone back to deadlifting. It always brings me back to sciatica, so I've got 2 herniated discs. So what I found is the fit for me is to work with your body. And as you get older, there's no point deadlifting if it's just going to put me off being able to train for a week or so because my back is absolutely knotted up due to sciatica from these herniated discs. So the back extension is my go-to for working my lower back. Now, I've got very thick, strong lumbers anyway, fortunately, So it's not a huge priority, but I like to finish the workout off with it. Now, if you're going to do these at any point in your workout, I would suggest doing them towards the end because you will get a very pumped lower back and it may put you off from the rest of your back workout if you used to do them near the start. Now, I'm going to use, and what I used with rehab, which was absolutely fundamental to improve and strengthen my lower back, was static holds. Static holds massively important for you to isolate, contract the muscle without putting it through any flexion that can cause more issues and injuries. And that's really how I built my strength up. But I couldn't do a back extension, obviously, after breaking my back. I could only just lie flat on the floor, if I'm honest. And eventually I could lift my chin up and then my chest up. And over many, many months and months and years, I could slowly get myself in the position where I had the balls to do this. But I got to admit, it was very scary to start with. I didn't know if I'd be able to get back up or it's... Anyway, that's back then, and we're on to today. So we're trying to build a nice, strong, thick lumbar, thick lower back, and improve your core strength. Lower back's important for that. Now, what we're going to do here, this is Chris Edmonds' technique, and it works really well. It's similar to how I rehabbed my back, is we'll do 1 60-second hold that really isolate and contract your back. You're trying to squeeze through your glutes, through your hams, through your calves, and also really isolate and contract your lower back. So you're statically contracting the whole posterior chain of your body for a whole minute. Now, what that'll do is it'll pre-fatigue the muscle. So now when we go into the actual reps, that in my case can cause some issues and injuries, I won't be able to do much weight or much reps, and therefore, because we've pre-exhausted the muscle, it'll fatigue and fail earlier, but still be hugely stimulated. For me, this is a fantastic way of strengthening my lower back. So if you've got back issues at home, give this a try. But my advice on improving your back strength is take it slow and steady. So if you can do 10 reps and your back's starting to pump up on this, and you've had previous back injuries, stop at 10. Don't go on for 15 or 20 if that was your goal. Stop at 10 before the back gets really engaged and pumped. Then if you go away that night, the following day or two, and your back's fine, you know that 10 was fine, you can try and do 12 and then 15 and so on as the weeks go forward. If you just try and hit that number and go through the pain, you may be written off for a whole week and have all sorts of issues if you've had back pain. If you haven't had back pain, you need to just man up and get the reps done, my man. So don't be a pussy. Do go for the set, go for the reps, push through it. Word of course, unless you've had back issues. So what you'll see here with me is I'll do a 60-second hold. I've got no problem with that. Then I'll go into some weighted reps. I'll try and do 10 with a weight, and then I'll try and do 10 without. But at any point, if I feel my back over-engaging, I'll stop there. I won't push through, and I'll do have a rest period. I'll do a second set. I'll live to fight another day and improve on that next week. So let's give it a whirl, see how we get on. Woo! That is fantastic. Now, while we're waiting for my pump to go on my lower back, which will be a minute or two, this gym here, Greatness Gym in Watford, if you've not been, come down and check it out. It's got a great calf machine right opposite it. So no one can train calves frequent enough, in my opinion. We're going to do a couple of sets of these calves between the back extensions and make use of the rest period. Exercising hugely taxing, but very isolating. So we're going to use calves here because no one can get good enough calves or big enough calves. So I could certainly do some more calf work. So let's give this a crack. All right, so I almost forgot the next viewer question because I'm so excited to go and train shoulders now. So when back is done, we're going to go and hit delts, blow up these side delts, rear delts. This is what I love the most about delt training, is getting that cannibal look where your shoulders are really pumped up. So you'll see that as the workout goes on now. So the next question I got, you almost forgot, was what's the best and worst parts of bodybuilding prep for you now you're over 40? So obviously I'm 50 now, so same realm though, isn't it? And I think that the best thing about bodybuilding prep, regardless of your age, is actually the discipline that it provides. So you have to be very dedicated, very diligent, very disciplined to being on top and to thinking ahead, being prepared so you don't fail. So that kind of discipline has only helped me in life, in business, in finance. Like, it's really helped me double down and really being like frighteningly focused really in all parts of life. Almost to the point of like borderline ADHD, which I have not got, but I am that focused on something, and I've learned that from bodybuilding. So I think that that's a great takeaway, can help in all realms of life. And I think you can say that for lots of top level sports as well. You don't get to the top without being disciplined. And so what's the worst part of bodybuilding prep? Now I'm older, it's actually easier than it was when I started because I've got more muscle, I've got more maturity in the muscle. And so it's harder for me to get out of shape now than it was when I was newer into bodybuilding. So you've got new muscle, it's easy to come and go. You've been doing it 30 years like mine, it tends to stick longer. So I think the worst point, though, regardless of your age, it's got to be the hunger side in those dark kind of weeks, maybe the last 4 weeks or so, maybe 6 weeks for some people, into a prep where everything seems to be against you. Every TV ad is like an advert for a new pizza or Domino's, and every time you're stuck in traffic, there's a banner or a billboard showing a food that you wish you could eat, although you'd never probably eat it in the off season or when you could, but because you can't have it, all of a sudden you're highlighted to it. And, you know, as a father, it can make like, you know, my kids coming down in the morning and cooking toast with like lathers and lathers of butter on it. And that can turn me into a bit of an animal because there's nothing better than toast with butter. Do you agree or not? If you agree, drop a comment. So I'm all for toast and butter, but not when you're in prep. And there's something about the smell of a bakery or toast. That's the hardest, probably thing. But what I learned over the years, and like this is what I tell all of my bodybuilding prep clients, is this is your choice, people. If you want to do a competition, don't come moaning to me about the food. If you want to get in shape and be like skinless, you know, 5% or less body fat, which is not normal to walk around in day to day, you're going to have to make that choice, and you're going to have to be hungry at times, regardless of all these pens that are about now and these fat loss pens, semaglutide, Manjaro, etc. You can't use those in the closer stage to competition because they cause inflammation and distress in the gut, and that's the last thing you want on stage. So even if you've used them in prep, you've got to pull them out at least 4 weeks before a show, and hunger will kick in, probably harder because you've not had it through the prep. Regardless, if you're not willing to be hungry, I wouldn't do the competition because it will be hard work. Not everyone can do a competition. And before you judge any physique on stage, regardless if they're in great shape, good shape, or they've just got on stage, you don't know their journey to stage. And at least they've got to that point of being lean enough for them to stand on a stage. And, you know, my first or second prep I ever done, going back 30 years, I look back at the photos now, I was well out of shape. But for me, it was the leanest I'd ever been. I was proud of that. I was embarrassed as well to get on stage, don't get me wrong, because I was, you know, it's quite small. I'd only been training 3 or 4 years and hadn't really got the muscle, but I had the bollocks to get on stage and go through a really hard diet. And as I've got older now, I realised that if you're going to do this thing, and you're going to moan about it, just don't do it. It's not for you. There's no spoils or rewards in bodybuilding. Even as a pro now, I'll compete for prize money, but you know, if you come second or third, it's a few £1,000s, people. It's not life-changing. You spend that on the competition, getting to the competition, and all the food and supplements going towards it. So if you don't do it for the love and you're moaning about the diet every 2 minutes to someone that listens, don't come moaning to me. Because I've done it 100 times, literally over 100 times I've competed. And if you're not willing to go through the hunger, you won't get in the best shape of your life. And remember, when you're really hungry, you're probably still eating 5 actual food meals a day, maybe 4, maybe 6. There are people in the world that are literally bloody starving hungry and born into it. They actually know what hunger is. You're just not allowed to eat your McDonald's, you know, or to have a packet of biscuits. You're still getting food. You're not starving. So do remember that when you are moaning. And when I, you know, was into prepping, I suppose probably 20 years ago now, you know, my partner at the time would bring back a takeaway at McDonald's and I couldn't eat it, I'd find that rude. I'd find that awkward. But realistically now, I've got kids, I've got a family, I've got a new partner, and if they want to eat anything they want, eat it. It's my choice to do the competition. It's my choice to get in shape. It's my choice to restrict the foods I choose. It's not theirs. They shouldn't have to live through bodybuilding prep just because you're doing it. And that's a bit of a gripe and a bit of a moan, but you know, I am 50, we're allowed to moan at our age. But just take that on board. You probably won't listen to it. You'll probably still moan at your coach or your missus. But trust me, after doing 100 competitions and seeing the end result, you don't want to do it, people. Don't do it, because the reward is very minimal. If you don't love it that much, you're just doing it because it's fashionable, just get out of the way. Let someone else get on stage that really loves it. All right, shoulder time. All right, people, so we've moved off back now. We're going to go on to shoulders now. So I'm going to do a rear delt superset, or giant set actually, which is like 3 exercises back to back without a rest in between them. And then we're going to do 3 exercises for the side delt after. So 3 rounds of each. So we're going to start with a rear delt. So bent over rear dumbbell raise. We're going to do the high numbers. So we're going for 20 reps. This is about pump now. We've done the hard work on back. I think, as I said earlier in the video, shoulders respond more to volume pump and frequency. And so what we're going to do here is 20 reps of a bent over row. Then we're going to do band pull-aparts. This is something I learned off John. It is something that Chris still includes in the workouts. And this is where you use a resistance band to work that range of motion where it is typically really difficult at the back. We're going to do 20 reps there as well, band pull-aparts. And then we're going to move into swings. Now, these are like John Meadows' favourites. Now, I remember when John come over to Stoke and we trained at one of the best gyms in the UK up there, Strength Asylum, I believe it's called. It's been so long, I'm going to get that wrong. I believe it is that. If you know the gym in Stoke and you've got that wrong, please drop me a comment and remind me what it's called. I'm sure it's called Strength Asylum. Anyway, he taught us here, because I remember him coming and train shoulders and put us on these Meadows swings where you're bent over a bench and you've got light dumbbells and you're literally doing a partial range of a rear delt movement, like a swinging movement, just literally swinging like this with straight arms off a bench. And I remember saying to John, mate, I could do that all day, bruv. Like, what are you doing? You're just swinging. You're just swinging. There's no pause. There's no contraction. There's no full range. You're partially swinging. But because you've done the free exhaustion with a bent over rows, rear delt, and then you've done the band pull-aparts, when you go onto the swings and you take them reps past 20 and we're going to aim for 30, those last 10 is fire. Like, they are on fire. Just in the rear delt, nothing else, just the rear delt. If you think about your shoulder joint, it just pivots there. And most of the time when people do rear delts, they'll use some trap, they'll use some back. But if you're just pivoting, you're hanging over a bench and you're swinging on the joint, that rear delt has to engage. You can't go too heavy. You do have to get the rep number up to feel it start to come on, but give it a try, people. All right. Now that is a pump. Like, my rear delts are just... They are sweating. So, next question, viewer question. So, coffee and cardio or ice bath and meditation in the morning? So, now these morning routines have become super popular in the last few years. You know, everyone knows about the ice on the face and all that business. So, what do I do? Now, I suppose the question really is what's best for you? And if you have like an elite morning optimization setup that you do as a routine, but really it's just turning into 2 hours of procrastination and not getting on with the day, on with work, getting some cardio or steps done or going to the gym, is it really benefiting you? Or is it just something you're finding a reason to not do the exercise and use this as your step in to make yourself feel like you're not being lazy? So that's kind of my look at it. I mean, for me personally, I think whatever works for you in the morning to be more productive and have more cognition for the rest of your day. What I do, 2 black coffees and cardio. 40 minutes of that. After 2 black coffees, have some aminos, get on my cardio, get it done, wake up, and then do some core, some back work, use an inversion table to stretch out my herniated discs. And then I get on with my day, and that's all done before 8 o'clock. So I typically get up at 5:30 or 6, have a couple of coffees, some water, catch up some emails. That's half an hour, then go and do that cardio before the kids get up. Now, I think that's the best thing for me. I've tried other things. I do have an ice bath. And often what I'll do is after the cardio and abs, I'll get in the ice bath for probably, it's about 4 or 5 minutes. It can't be longer than that. It fucking feels like longer than that if you're in an ice bath. And I tend to do that most mornings. I have been doing that all through the summer because it's so hot at the moment. And, you know, because it's my ice bath, I actually take some soap into it and I soak myself up and use that as a bath while I'm in there. And then that just cuts down on the time to go and have a shower and everything afterwards. I found actually the best benefits of an ice bath is getting out and not drying off. Just letting your body come back to room temperature over the course of 5 or 10 minutes or whatever without drying yourself down. Or what you want to do, and what I used to do, is jump in a hot shower. And the carry-on of energy for the next several hours of the morning is levels above than you can get with any amount of coffee. Like, you're just really awake and cognitively alert. And it's a fucking fantastic feeling, almost swore there. So I would do a combination of coffee, cardio, ice bath. That can all be done within an hour. And then you're off for the day. That's my take home. What do you guys do? And let me know if you've got anything else that you do that isn't either of those that you find a priority in the morning. But I don't know if it looks a bit sus, but give it a try before you comment, because I was exactly the same. And I commented to John prior to doing it, and when he got me through it and took me through it, wow, the burn was insane. So you'll see the rear delt muscle pump up after this tricep. I like to rest short periods between these triceps, so 45 seconds to a minute, so we keep that blood in there, that intensity, go round again and again. Increase the weight if you can between each set. If you're getting if you can do more than 20 reps or 30 reps, which is the goal, do them. Get the reps, but then realize that and increase the weight on the following round. If we do that, you'll get a massive pump. Stay with me. All right, people, we are on to the last exercise of the day. Get in there. And it's come about the right time, so I'm just starting to flake. Now, if you flake through your workouts, I would 100% suggest using some Carb-X or some sort of cyclic dextrin in your training drink. You only need about 30 grams, and I've mixed that with 20 grams of an essential amino acid. Ideally use Amino Man, because that's what I use. Code Neale 10, or no, code Neale 20, people. Save a whopping 20%, not a measly 10. If you put that combination in your water, you'll be able to train a lot longer. You'll get a greater pump. I've used it. I don't train without either of those two. The Carb-X, the cyclic dextrin will shuttle the aminos, the creatine, whatever you use in your training drink, into the cells, so you'll be able to perform longer, stronger, and so on. Now, the final exercise we're going to do is some side lateral raises with a dumbbell, looking at about 12 to 15 reps to fail within that range. And we're going to go into band pull-aparts or band laterals to really help isolate that top part of the movement, which some people will miss with a dumbbell. And then we're going to go into partials. So go back to the same dumbbells, but by this point, your shoulders are toasted and you'll only be able to get them halfway out. And try and get 20 reps with those partial reps. Just try not to touch your legs on the way back down, so you keep constant tension on the side head. It's absolutely brutally painful, works fantastically well. Now, if you've got to this point in the video, absolutely well done. Don't know how you've done it, but if you did and you haven't hit the subscribe button, should you just click this like and subscribe button here? Do me a massive favor. Try to get this channel moving. Haven't been on YouTube for a long time and started doing some YouTube channel stuff. You like it, like it. If you don't, like it. If you don't, subscribe as well. Just subscribe and like it regardless. That would be fantastic. And I'll keep these coming. Well done. If you've made it to the end, I thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the other videos I've put in this group. So look for Men Over 40. Great new videos in that playlist, and I'll see you at the next video.